Welcome to video 1. In this composition workshop, we will be drawing ideas and harmonic elements from classical music to create our compositions. You'll be introduced to the types of harmonic progressions that are found in classical music, starting with the basic progressions, progressions with inversions, and then sequential progressions. The idea is to expose you to a comprehensive collection of progressions so that once you've learned them all, you'll be able to mix and match them together to build and expand the harmony of your compositions. So let's begin with the basic progressions. When you start composing your music, you will wonder, what chord do I start with and where do I go from there? To answer these questions, let me first introduce to you this chord chart. Here you see a chord chart which shows the movement of chords generally in any tonal music. So this can actually apply to other styles of music as well. I'm using this chart to explain to you the foundations of harmonic progressions in classical music. It's like a summary of many of the chord progressions that you will learn later on. Alright, so what does this all mean? You see that there are arrows pointing to the right, and at the end of this line there is chord 1 with a dotted arrow pointing to the left. What this dotted arrow means is that chord 1 can go to any of these other chords. That's the first thing to understand. All of these just point in the direction of the chord that they go to, and you'll notice that they all lead back to chord 1. What this tells us about harmonic progression in classical music is this. Number 1, any harmonic progression always starts with a root chord, which is a 1 chord. Then it can go to any of these other chords. Number 2, the goal of harmonic progressions is to return to chord 1, which is a root chord. Number 3, the root chord is usually preceded by the 5 chord in root position. You'll find instances where plagal cadence is used, which is 4-1, but that is usually towards the end of the whole piece. You'll find that within the piece itself, chord 5-1 is frequently used, because chord 5 has what we call a dominant function, which pushes the harmonic progression forward towards the goal, which is chord 1. In classical music, it is very often that you find the progression from 1 to 5, back to 1, and then to 5, and then to 1 again. It sounds very simple, but in a nutshell, that is the bird's eye view of what a piece of classical music is like. So these are the 3 things we can gather so far from this chart about the harmonic progressions in classical music. The next thing that I will point out and explain is what the whole progression here is about. Some of you are familiar with the circle of fifths progression, where we'll go up or down by fifths to the next chord. So if you look closely here, from 1 we can go to the 4th chord by going down a fifth. And then we can go down a fifth again to get to the 7th diminished chord. Same thing again, go down a fifth to get the 3rd. Then we go down a fifth to get to the 6th chord. Down a fifth to the 2 chord. Then down a fifth to the 5th chord. And then back to the 1 chord. What this signifies here gives us point number 4. That the circle of fifths is a fundamental part of harmonic progression in classical music. This is to say that using parts of the circle of fifths, we can derive other smaller basic harmonic progressions. For example, the progression 1-5-1 or 1-6-2-5-1, which we will be explained later on. You must be wondering, why are these 2 chords together in the box as well as here? That's because these chords can actually substitute for each other. We can think of the 4 chord as a substitute for the 2 chord. We can also see the 7th diminished chord as a substitute for the 5 chord. At this point, you will see here the application of the terminology subdominant, dominant, and tonic functions. These 2 chords, chord 4 and 2, have subdominant functions and are interchangeable. And the 7th diminished as well as the 5 chord has dominant functions and are interchangeable. The dominant function will lead us to the tonic, chord 1. So the idea of substitution in classical music is important, And you'll find that substitution is also possible for some chords that are a third apart. 4 and 2 are a third apart, and 7 diminished as well as 5 are also a third apart. In some instances, you can substitute 6 with the 4, which are also a third apart. Now we will go on to look into some of the most basic harmonic progressions that we find in classical music, which is based on this chart. In the basic harmonic progressions, we commonly stay in this collection of chords here. So the reason why these chords are bracketed is to say that you are going into the circle of fifths progression, which is a sequential progression that will be discussed later. Based on the chords around here, the first basic common progression that you'll find is that 1 goes to 5 and then goes back to 1. Then we also have 1 going to 4 and then going to 5, then back to 1. However, this is not very common in classical music because you'll find that 4 is usually substituted with 2, such that you get 1, 2, 5, 1. Finally, we have the reduced version of the circle of fifths progression, where 1 goes to 6, and then to 2, then to 5, then to 1. Do realize that we are currently in the major key, so all these chord progressions apply to major key only. See that the chord 1 is in major tonality, so the Roman numeral is capitalized. Chord 4 is also in a major tonality, and it is also in a capitalized Roman numeral. If we are in the minor key, then the Roman numerals should look like this according to the tonality of chords in the minor key. So there you have it, the basic chord progressions in classical music. Note that they are all in root position. So in the next video, we will discuss about using these basic progressions with inversions.